Need advice on disappearing from his life. The account was only used once. Nick, male 37, and I, female 36, have been in a relationship for 3 years. Despite the fact that I wasn't flawless, I feel we had a good relationship up until a year ago, when I discovered him cheating on me. In terms of finances, I'm self-sufficient, and I've always been a competent financial planner. On the 22nd of January, I will be completely debt-free. I had a terrible time forgiving him, but he did all he could help me regain my confidence, and we had a rather smooth run for around 8 months after that. He asked me to help him in the formation of a corporation, which I agreed to do to a certain degree. I drafted the plan based on his suggestions, guided him through the process of acquiring approvals, and aided him with all of the following steps. He was unable to complete the task. He first said that he didn't have time, but then stated that he was concerned because getting it off the ground would be difficult. Or, to put it another way, I created a firm for him in which I would serve as his principal client. This seemed like a reasonable compromise, given that he wanted me to identify him as my partner, which is completely ridiculous. To give you some perspective, I went to college and, despite the fact that I was an average student, I worked really hard later on when I got my first job to make up for my lack of stellar academic performance. In order to improve my chances, I gained credentials and made significant investments in my education in every manner I could. It was a lucrative venture. Since I was 28 years old, I've worked for myself as a freelancer. During my first meeting with Nick, he informed me that, due to the state of the economy, he owned a small agency but was ready to take on a job with the federal government. This didn't worry me in the least. Everything was going swimmingly until I learned that he was having an affair with his ex-partner. This came as a huge, special place in my heart. The fact that I have a pet does not appear to bother my landlord, provided that I keep the place clean and neat. I built a Casio for my rescued cats, who number about 10. It's a secure location with a controlled temperature, and they have access to all of their supplies at all times of the day, 7 days a week, including holidays. This was my wish come true. Because I've been feeding those cats for years, I wanted to do all I could to ensure that they didn't end up on the streets. They are also up to date on all of their vaccinations. One of them had chronic kidney disease, CKD, but he healed. Nick was fully aware of this from the onset of the relationship. Because of the automatic cat litter boxes, the house is clean and there are no odors from the pets. He was enraged by the cats because he wanted his family to move away from him. The reaction was a resounding no. We never brought it up again. He even demanded that I get rid of the cats and suggested disappointment to me since I had no clue what I had done to deserve this. I did all in my power to be a helpful and trustworthy companion. In order to seem beautiful to him while still contributing to the household, I worked really hard. I paid half of everything, and it was my place. We went through a long period of conflict before I made the decision to forgive and move on. During this new honeymoon time, he landed a better job, showed tenderness toward me, and was very attentive to my needs, among other things. I began to notice warning symptoms in October of last year. He asked me to pull back from his business initiative, refused to go out, and seemed to have lost interest in all at once. He became irritable and impolite. It was entirely focused on him and his needs. He'd lost his job as a result of COVID the previous year. In January, we moved into a house that I had leased out. Although I enjoy my house, it has generated friction between my husband and myself. Animals have ate that I put them up for adoption as a last resort. He didn't pay for the animals in any way. For months, he hasn't had a reliable source of income, and I've been aiding him in paying his business meetings since I didn't want to jeopardize his aspirations. Despite the fact that he contributes, his contribution is far less than it might be. I'm unable to live with his family at this time. They choose beggars and moochers as their subjects. His brothers and he have a habit of dissolving their marriages as soon as their children are brought into the world. It was too late for me to realize what had happened. Nick alleges that his ex-girlfriend went nuts after she gave birth to their child. In order to find a home for them and the child, his brother tricked his ex into moving in with her parents while he sought for a new house. He was never able to purchase a property, but he managed to get her pregnant again, prompting her parents to forbid him from visiting their home. When his wife became pregnant with her second kid, the youngest brother decided to join her. In the same home as him, his siblings, as well as his mother, all left together. He wanted them to come in since we had 3 spare bedrooms and a very big family room, and he thought it would be great if they could save money by staying with us instead of renting elsewhere. As a result, I'm going to assume that there was no intention of donating. To cut a long tale short, I became really ill by the end of October. He never even made a kind gesture to me. I sobbed because I was in pain, and he simply walked away. His reason is that I could be infectious. I wasn't. He never asked if he could get me anything to eat and seldom came to check on me. I had a lonely Thanksgiving while healing since he had gone to be with his family. My loved ones are nowhere to be found since I abandoned everything for him. We discussed marriage at some time. I just discovered that he had returned with his side girlfriend. I was going to hire a private investigator, but it's not worth it. I already know all I need to know. I got my hands on his phone and discovered around 3 weeks' worth of messages. They are unquestionably having. I'd kept this inside of me since I was in too much agony to approach him at first. I wouldn't want it on anybody. We're hardly communicating, and he hasn't bothered to ask me what's wrong. I couldn't discover anything on his girlfriend's social media accounts, Laura. From her mother's profile, I learned much more than I needed to know. He's been involved in their lives since at least last summer, and he's been lying to me about it. This is really personal to me. I've been largely paying his lifestyle while he's been lying to me about going to job interviews with no success. He is on a so-called business trip to the British Virgin Islands. I no longer believe there is any business at stake. Alternatively, he may be merging business with something else. I'm not sure whether this is a sham business conference or not, and I'm not interested in finding out. I did saw Laura's mother's social media, and she mentions a vacation overseas in passing. I'm leaving him for 2 reasons. 1, the misery he's giving me, and 2, he's a liar. As I'll be disconnecting from him, I need help to see if there's anything I'm missing from my must-do list. I'm not going to give him the luxury of knowing ahead of time that I'm going to pull the rug out from under him. I've already spoken with the landlord since I'll be leaving the home a little sooner. I'll be taking advantage of Nick's vacation to relocate myself. I've previously contracted with a pet transportation company since I'm concerned about flying dogs and cargo. They will be to my house by 9 a.m. to take up my kittens since I have all of their health certificates in order. Nick's flight leaves at a slightly earlier time, therefore he must be at the airport by 6 a.m. at preparation for my upcoming relocation. I've already made arrangements for my cats to be boarded until a new catio can be built for them in their current location. My sister will take care of it. I'll be living on my own property. I've arranged the movers to come in the afternoon on the same day as the expected arrival. That way, I'll have plenty of time to pack and separate my possessions from his before he arrives home. For the reason that I do not want any personal contact with him, I will have all of his personal belongings relocated to his mother's home. All commercial endeavors have been ceased and desist orders issued. I've filed a lawsuit against him in order to prevent him from accessing my clients, among other things. I've also deleted the business plan from my computer. For security reasons, I need to change all of my passwords and PINs on all of my credit cards, including the Visa I gave him for emergencies in case he needs it. In addition, I must empty and close the bank account that I allowed him to use for business expenses. I suppose it's best if I do it while he's flying so that he doesn't have the opportunity to use them. I'm not sure whether there's anything I'm overlooking. I'll go straight immediately to avoid any unpleasant surprises, his family coming to confront me, etc. He is now free to live with his fiancée, if that is what he wishes. I suppose she is still with her parents, but he is no longer a source of worry for me. Do you have any recommendations? I don't want any loose ends to be left hanging.